This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream. What a distinguished gentleman. Fun facts are fun, and the internet is certainly full of them. You'll find websites throwing lists of hundreds of fun facts that have to do with history. But are all of these lists actually telling the truth? Hello number ones and welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today I was having some fun browsing the internet looking through lists of fun facts. And the thing is that I noticed that some of the facts that were mentioned, they weren't necessarily correct, and I don't think that this was done on purpose. It's not like that they were purposely lying, but I think it's just that oftentimes these lists and these websites that we find are just copycats. They repeat what's been written on other blogs and this continues, but no one really does much due diligence. So how about we do it together today? So today we are on parade.com and we are reading the list 125 mind-blowing historical facts and trivia that are almost too weird to be true. We're going to begin at fact number 3. There were female gladiators in ancient Rome. A female gladiator was called a gladiatrix. They were extremely rare, unlike their male counterparts. Okay, so there is some truth into this little paragraph, but I think things need to be expanded a little bit, let me tell you. Were there female gladiators in ancient Rome? Absolutely, yes, they existed, we know that. But when it says it was called a gladiatrix, well, I'd like to underline that this is not a period term, in the sense that the Romans didn't call them that. So in Latin, in the classical period, we have the word for gladiator, which is gladiator. The A is long when it comes to phonemic vowel length. But the word gladiatrix was created in the modern period. Instead, the ancient Romans called them, as one of the possible names, ludia, which could be translated as a female performer in connection with the Latin word ludi, which means festival. Here we are told that they were extremely rare, but I think this is a bit of an overstatement. Were they uncommon? Absolutely, particularly in comparative key when compared to the actual male gladiators, who were, of course, common. But the reason why I say they're overstating is because if they were extremely rare, then first, the Roman writers wouldn't speak so much about them, and they did. Also, Roman emperors and magistrates wouldn't legislate about them, which they did. For example, in 11 AD, the Roman Senate passed a law forbidding free women under the age of 20 to participate in gladiatorial combat. Now, if the Senate had to pass a law about this, what that tells us is that there must have been a certain number of women who were free and under the age of 20 who were participating in gladiatorial combat, so much so that they had to pass a law about it. So I'm not saying that they were very common, but definitely they wouldn't have been extremely rare. Also, look at the irony of this legislation. Free women weren't allowed to do it. Interesting concept of freedom. Number 120, yes, I'm jumping around today. The Vikings were the first people to discover America, half a millennium before Christopher Columbus. Viking chief Leif Erikson of Greenland landed on the island of Newfoundland in the year 1000 AD. The Viking hunter under Leif Erikson settled Newfoundland, as well as discovering and settling Labrador further north in Canada. Okay, so I have addressed this whole situation with Norse explorers and Greenland on a dedicated video. You'll find a link in the description. So I'm not going to dive into that too much, but one thing I do want to say about this idea of discovering America. So really what this point is trying to do is trying to debunk this idea that Christopher Columbus, who was an Italian from Genova, who was serving under the Spanish crown, wasn't the guy who actually discovered America. And I do want to raise a little bit of a dialectic problem when it comes to this, in the sense that we first need to really establish what we mean by discovering America. Because of course this idea of, it's not Columbus that discovered America, it's the Norse, it's very much of a European perspective, or European approach. Native Americans were already living in America, so when it comes to them, no one discovered it. And this is the point I'm trying to draw, which can give us some food for thought, if you will. If by discovering America we mean, from a European perspective, someone arrived from Europe to America and was like, "Ooh, I didn't know America was here, I have discovered it," then yes, Columbus did discover it, because even though the Norse may have arrived there before, Columbus didn't know, Spain didn't know, France didn't know, Portugal didn't know, the Vatican didn't know. So from their perspective, it was a discovery. But I suppose if we wanted to really be a little bit pedantic, we could say that Christopher Columbus, or Cristoforo Colombo, rediscovered America. Give him a little credit. Number 8, Cleopatra was black. I'm joking. Number 8, Cleopatra wasn't actually Egyptian. As far as historians can tell, Egypt's famous femme fatale was actually Greek. She was a descendant of Alexander the Great's Macedonian general Ptolemy. When was this posted? I don't think I had any idea what was going to happen with this one. Okay, I think I've spoken at length when it comes to Cleopatra. I'll refer you to the videos. But I do want to say just one thing about this one. Then we'll move to the next. Cleopatra wasn't actually Egyptian. Note that here is saying Cleopatra wasn't actually Egyptian. They're not saying Cleopatra was black, was white, was Middle Eastern, was what have you. They're saying she wasn't actually Egyptian. So someone could ask, but hold on a minute, if they go and look it up, oh, Cleopatra was born in 69 BC in Alexandria of Egypt, they might ask, but how was she not an Egyptian if she was born in Egypt? And I think a great way to answer that is to look at it this way. George Washington. Thank you. That was a donation from one of you, by the way. Appreciate it. I'm going to leave this one in. George Washington was born in America. That doesn't make him a Native American. I'll leave it to that. This episode is brought to you by CuriosityStream, the best place to find and watch documentaries about science, history, technology, travel, nature, and much more. CuriosityStream is a subscription-based streaming service that offers thousands of documentaries and non-fiction titles from some of the world's best filmmakers, including exclusive originals, plus the deepest collection of the best documentaries from around the world, deeper than any other streaming service out there. Now, CuriosityStream adds new shows every week. The content spans over a wide range of topics, as I was saying, history, nature, technology, but also military history, music, tech. There is something for everyone in there. CuriosityStream is also available not only worldwide, but on many different platforms. You can use it on the web, on TV through Roku, Xbox, smart TVs, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and much more. And of course on all mobile devices. If this is the sort of stuff you're interested in, then I highly recommend you to go check out CuriosityStream. Go to curiositystream.com/Metatron or use my QR code for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and non-fiction series. And for the fans of this platform, you can use the promo code Metatron and you will save 25% off. There are two documentaries that I would like to bring to your attention because I've been watching them and I've been really enjoying them. The first one is about the incident at Pompeii and the volcanic explosions that happened in ancient Rome. Really well made, and if you are into ancient Rome, then the second documentary series that you should totally check out is Rome, the world's first superpower. You won't regret it. So click the link in the description below or go to curiositystream.com/Metatron and save 25%. And this way you would also be supporting this channel and this show. And big thanks to CuriosityStream for sponsoring my video. Number 19. During the Victorian period, it was normal to photograph loved ones after they died. People would dress their newly deceased relatives in their best clothing and then put them in lifelike poses and photograph them. They did this to preserve one last image of their dead loved ones. Well, as creepy as it sounds, this is actually correct, and I remember now reading this that a while ago I watched a video by Vsauce mentioning this situation. I remember looking into it for the span of like 15 minutes and then I got bored and went back to ancient Roman history. But yes, it is true. There are loads of pictures to show this. They did it like with kids, with grandma, with whoever. But I do have a question. Rather than thinking, well, why did they do it? I mean, that's creepy and whatnot. The real question is this, for me at least. Who came up with the idea first? Because if this was a relatively established custom in certain countries and it had become commonplace, then I suppose nothing weird with you doing it as well if everyone else is doing it and it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable. But I really wonder the first person who's like, you know what? Number 67. It's believed that roughly 97% of history has been lost over time. Written accounts of history only started roughly 6,000 years ago. Modern humans first appeared around 200,000 years ago. Okay, this is one of those fun facts or historical fact facts that rely entirely on the shock factor. When you think about it and you think, gosh, we have so much history and so many records, and that's just 3% of the entirety of all the history of mankind. And the problem with this kind of statements is that it's a very precise number, and it's extremely difficult to have precise numbers and precise statements when it comes to the history that of course hasn't been recorded, because it hasn't been recorded. And that estimate may and will vary depending on what scholar you ask, because when did the modern human actually start? How far back can we go and trace our lineage to our ancestors and find actual common ground? Is it 200,000 years ago? Is it longer than that? It's difficult, and I have looked into this one because of the previous list that I made, and which, by the way, if you haven't checked, you should totally check it out, link in the description, and it also has to do with cats and a medieval pope. How can you not click it? And even though I think it's nice to have this number, I think rather than using the number, what I would do is to say the majority of human history is gone precisely because it wasn't recorded. But of course that probably wouldn't create as many clicks, so there is that. but what do I know? Number 28. Ferrets, dogs and monkeys were the most popular pets in the Roman Empire. Instead of cats, ancient Romans used ferrets to hunt mice and rats. They used dogs as guards and monkeys as entertainment. Oh yes, absolutely. The dog particularly was a ubiquitous animal mentioned all the time by people like Pliny the Elder, Cicero, Cato the Elder, Columella. Petronius even mentions signs in Roman houses with "Beware of the dog" written on them and created in mosaic fashion. And there are many other reasons why Romans praised dogs. For instance, dogs were used for war and they were also used for hunting, such as the canis venaticus. Number 86. Cleopatra. Goodness gracious, what is it with Cleopatra lately? Cleopatra was the first member of a dynasty to speak ancient Egyptian. She was also able to speak 8 other languages, including ancient Greek, ancient Iranian, ancient Parthian, Syriac, Ethiopian, Troglodyte, Hebrew, and Arabic. Okay, so this is absolutely correct, as you probably know if you've been looking into Cleopatra lately. Of course, it is true that Cleopatra was a multilingual, in fact, what we would today consider to be a polyglot. Because she was a scholar, a very intelligent woman, and also she was super rich and very privileged. With that being said, there are 2 things I'd like to add to this. And number 1, these are the languages we are told she knew. How fluent she was in each one of these, impossible to know. Also, we have no idea how her pronunciation of troglodyte was. Really, when I look into the ancient sources and how they describe her, I think she's smart, I think she liked learning, and she clearly had a passion for languages, but that's about it. We don't really know how fluent she would have been with all of these. And another interesting idea is the fact that she was the only one in the Ptolemaic dynasty to even bother to learn Egyptian. Remember, she was born in Egypt. For 3 centuries, the Ptolemaic kingdom had reigned in Egypt, and yet no one bothered to even learn the Egyptian language until Cleopatra the 7th. I know you probably heard about this, but picture it for a moment in your mind, and you spent your entire life in Egypt, and you do not know a word of Egyptian. I think that speaks loads to how interested the Ptolemaic people were into intermingling and mixing with native Egyptians. Okay, number 1, but I hope that you enjoyed this list, and if you did, please remember thumbs up, and if you're not yet members of this community, become a number 1, subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. Please remember to click the link in the description to make use of the amazing offer by Curiosity Stream. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.